Hey everybody, it's Joy Brooks at Email and Coffee, and today I'm talking with Corrina Cohen, who is a soulmate of mine because we both worked at NBC. So Corrina, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So hi everyone. Like she said, I'm Corrina, and I have been in email for almost 15 years now. I got my start back at Exact Target as a technical intern and then hired full time, where I worked on the product team before switching over to the build and send team because it was way more fun than managing product releases and getting yelled at by customers. At least I got yelled at by customers now because I sent the wrong email. So I have been around forever, and now I'm at NBC Sports, and I oversee our Salesforce Marketing Cloud instance and our CRM data to implement all of our super awesome campaigns that are tied to all of our marquee events that we cover on NBC, such as the Beijing Olympics.
Yes, and I did the Olympics 1992 Olympics in Barcelona, Spain. So we have that in common too.
Yep, I started 2 weeks before the Tokyo Olympics, and then 6 months later, I had a little event called the Super Bowl, the same time as the Winter Olympics. So now I get a little year and a half break before we go into Paris.
It's working for a television station is very exciting. It's very exciting. You get to meet.
This is actually my first time in media. I've been in retail for most of my life, but NBC found me because they were looking for more of a retail take on the way that they engage with their customers so that they do more kind of personalization. I always crack up because we still use the term surprise and delight for our customers because that's what they want to do at these events. And I love it. I'm like, okay, let's do it.
Let's surprise and delight them one more time.
Yep.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that, but yeah, it's a little jaded, a little. It's okay. I remember the first time I heard it. I won't even tell you. It was like 5 years ago, 4 years ago, something like that.
Oh, we were using it at Exact Target in 2007.
2007. Oh my goodness.
So that term has been around a long time.
I guess so. So you say you were at Exact Target, and that's an ESP, but when were they sold?
They were sold in 2012. I actually left early 2011 to start my own consultancy so that I could spend more time with my kids. But my husband was actually still there. And funny enough, we were on our honeymoon at the time, and he found out about the acquisition via a press release because he hadn't been checking his email for work, but he had been checking the news while we were on the beach in Jamaica. So he was like, honey?
Right under your owner. From under us. Oh, wow.
So that's what happens when you spend 2 weeks in Jamaica.
I guess so. So that must have been interesting. Well, how was that takeover?
It was interesting. It went from a very small agile company where, when I was release manager, we would go and play Wii bowling in the lobby, or not the lobby, but the lunchroom when people were stressed out and just needed a mental break. Like that was part of my job. And then once they were owned by a much bigger company, there was a lot more regulations in place, and it seemed like there was a lot more process put in place. And I know my husband just recently left, and it's been a year now, actually. He left in June of last year to try some new things. But yeah, he was there 18 years and saw it grow from a tiny company. He was the third or fourth developer they hired at Exact Target. So he saw it grow from inception almost.
Where did you work for them? Where were you at that
I was in Indianapolis when they only had the one location.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
I didn't realize.
Here's what I found.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, Siri apparently also wants to.
Indianapolis. No, it's interesting. I was at NBC when it was taken over by General Electric, and that was an interesting amount of time, and they renamed the RCA building, and
yep.
It was contentious. It was difficult. It was very difficult. The atmosphere at NBC went from a very creative atmosphere, and it's a huge, NBC was huge then. It wasn't that it grew under General Electric, but it went from a very creative atmosphere to a very corporate atmosphere.
I'd say now we're fortunate that we, at least on the sports side, get to be creative again. At
Yeah,
least from our aspect, where we try and be creative when it comes to tying into different events to be able to be on site. So for example, at the Indy 500 this weekend, we have what's called the Spindy 500, where it's a little racetrack with cars, but it's powered by bikes that you race your friends, and then we'll have a leaderboard.
that's cute.
Yep. And so hopefully we'll also get some acquisitions for email, because if you sign up with your email address, then you can keep track of the leaderboard outside of having to sit there and making sure that no one is passing you. So you could even come back during the day. And then we also have incorporated some celebrities also did the same thing. And so you can compare your time to theirs on our microsite.
Oh, that's cool. That's fun.
Yep.
Those are, I guess working for a company like NBC, it's a little easier to get email addresses because after all,
It is easy to get them. It's harder to keep them
Yeah.
because sports are very cyclical. So yeah, people, once they're done with football, if we send them too many other emails, then they're going to unsubscribe until they want to hear about the next football season.
Right.
So that's one of the things we're really mindful of. For example, we only send one email a month right now for the Olympics with just kind of a summary of what athletes have been up to. And that's just to keep our list warm, but not to over inundate people for the next year and a half.
Right, just because they're in sports doesn't mean they love every single sport,
Yep. And the Olympics is very different than all of our normal sports that we have here in the States, like the Super
That's
Bowl,
right.
the Indy 500, and the Derby.
Exactly. So exactly, somebody who's into car racing doesn't necessarily, translate to,
Figure skating and gymnastics.
equine, anything
Yep.
that goes on in the Olympics, it just doesn't naturally translate. So yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, I have a daughter who's a former rhythmic gymnast who decided to retire when it was her turn to basically give up school and only go 2 to 3 hours a day so that she could be in the gym all day long to train for the Olympics. But yeah, she decided she wanted a high school experience instead, which now that she actually just graduated last week, I was really glad to see that she did get to experience all of that. But we also knew the girls that competed in the Tokyo Olympics, which was really awesome because she had trained with them when she was younger in Chicago when we still lived in Indiana.
Being an athlete is very difficult.
Yep. Yeah, I've got an athlete and I've got a musician. So we've got the gamut in our house.
And your husband is a geek and
Yep.
Gotcha. So I know that you do a lot of mentorship type teaching, consulting on the side, and that was part of your business when you left Exact Target.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us a little bit about that transition from Exact Target to what was it, Cohen?
The Creative Cohen.
Creative Cohen.
Yep.
What was it like? What was that like for you? Tell us a little bit about that.
It was a big change, but at the same time, I was suffering really badly from burnout. And I had a 3-year-old that was at the babysitter so much from the long hours I was working that she called her mommy one night when I was picking her up. And so that was the point where I was like, nope, something's got to change. And so it went from basically making myself available to everyone and anyone at all times to basically setting my own hours and really setting my own priorities. It took some time to adjust to that because I had been working 60 to 70 hours a week, and I really only wanted to work like max 35 hours a week so that I could go and volunteer for my kids' stuff at school and be a soccer coach for my son, take them to music and dance lessons and all those things. And really and I don't regret it for 1 minute. I know not a lot of people are afforded those opportunities, but I really found it was worth it. And then from there, I started reaching out to different colleges because I was also finding, as I was trying to find kind of entry-level people to place at different companies once I was finished helping them, that there was really a lack of people that wanted to go into email. And so from there, that's kind of how my mentorship started. And now I do anyone like people reach out to me through the Salesforce Trailblazer community, and I do that mentorship. I also go to CU Boulder and talk to them about what it's like in my job, not just for email, but just in marketing technology in general. So you can go to college, you can learn to make a website. You can go to college, you can learn to maintain a network or do a CRM. But no one tells you can go and do my job, where you make a landing page that integrates with the CRM, and it's displayed through a QR code on TV that people scan and can win an awesome prize to like Universal Studios, or we've given away Super Bowl tickets. games to the Masters. I mean, it's really awesome to be able to tie all that together, and people are like, I didn't even think about how that's done. And so I get better quality candidates as well by mentoring and showing people what all is out there besides just what you go to school for.
Right, and you can easily apply it to something that makes that's logical to them, and it also has some amount of desire. So you're showing them how it really works in in real time. Like this is good strategy. This is how it works. This is how I put it together.
Well, and I work for a pretty cool company, so a lot of people are really interested in what we do. So it makes it a lot easier and I even have gone and talked to Leeds School of Business, because we even have people that it's their job just to sit and watch sports all day and write down stats so that they can run into the statistician so that they can translate it into what the anchor is saying. So if young people love sports and want to watch TV all day, they can come and be an intern at NBC Sports and learn about marketing technology and sports technology while binge watching their favorite sport.
Well, too bad we didn't tell George Costanza that, because when he was telling Jerry that he needed a new job, and he said, maybe I could be a sports anchor. And Jerry said, you have to be in sports to be a sports anchor, don't you think, George? He should have known about that. He could just watch sports and do analytics.
Yep.
Oh, he didn't know. He just didn't know. My favorite show is Seinfeld. Okay, I could probably relate every part of my life to a Seinfeld episode.
That's pretty in 30 Rock, especially now that I work at NBC. 30 Rock was one of my favorite shows already, but I've also told my team that if we can get up to like 3 million subscribers, I will do the Kenneth Cartwheel that he did to throw his application to be a page at the Olympics through the NBC sports doors in one of the episodes. And I can't do a cartwheel, so it will be entertaining to see a 40-year-old woman who can't do a cartwhole do a cartwheel.
I would have to have medics alongside.
Same.
It would be very painful. Very, very painful. So, a lot of people have, a lot of young people, as they go into business, there are a few things that they're thinking about, like they're thinking about moving around, making money, taking time off. I mean, they have a lot of aspirations these days. And it may not necessarily be corporate specifically, they may be solopreneurs or entrepreneurs. They have all these different concepts, not like the classic when I'm the baby boomer. So I went to work, it was going to become a career. They're not necessarily looking at careers. So, how do you find when you're doing the mentorship, how do you find the mindset of millennials, and how does that work out during sessions and trying to teach them? I would be interested to know how many millennials find the email marketing to be really pretty cool, because it presents.
Most of them don't think it's cool, but a lot of them find that how it works behind the scenes to be interesting. So that's a lot of what I look for, are people that are eager to learn, or people that like to take things apart, because that's a lot of what my job is to take the marketing campaign apart and see how it's supposed to work and then build that. So that's a lot of what I look for, or what I call like the digital tinkers, the ones that want to see behind the scenes. And so a lot of times, even when I go and present, most of the kids won't be listening that are even at some of the Salesforce user group sessions for college students. But you always get those few that are interacting and engaging. And those are usually the ones that I'm like, well, if you want to learn more, here's my email address. I'm more than happy to reach out. And a lot of those, I'm even fortunate enough, like NBC has a rotational program. So if people were interested in that, they could come in from college and be able to develop themselves as in the email program through something like a rotational program. But yeah, I mean,
interns.
Yep.
NBC interns, go ahead.
Yep. Well, we have interns, but then we also have this rotational program. I just met a young lady from it internally a couple of days ago. But I actually came from a rotational program also at Exact Target. So I'm a big fan of rotational programs, because I'm actually...
You just moved through the company? Are you paid?
Yeah.
You paid, and you moved through the company?
Mm-hmm.
That's
But
pretty,
yeah, I had no idea after college what I wanted to do. I had a computer science degree. I tried a few different areas and it ended up what I thought I wanted to do. I ended up hating anyway. And so then I moved into building and sending emails, which I didn't even know was a thing until I was at this company already. And so that's even, I have heard stats a few times that the average email marketing career only lasts about 5 years. And so I keep that in mind a lot of times whenever I am hiring people or developing people, is that this is kind of an entry or a segue into bigger marketing roles that are more encompassing. And so I keep that in mind a lot. And so I train people, especially on my team, not only in what we're doing, but in understanding the overall strategy and how to communicate with different leaders in different ways and what the different analytic pieces that you need to show your success are for each of these different groups in order to prove your case, because they're not always just going to be an email developer or an email specialist or an email manager, or in my case, the business engagement manager that's leading a team of Salesforce developers. There's other things out there that you have to grow into because you are going to eventually plateau salary wise and just in trajectory, unless you're working at an ESP, then you can be an email for life. But I mean, even at NBC, there was only so long that I would be able to do email. And so for me, even it will be not so much like moving up as more as expanding and growing a team to cover more parts of NBC.
there's always management. Obviously, there's always management.
Yep.
My career path,
But even if I wanted to be a director, I need to understand our infrastructure. I need to understand our ESP. I need to understand our CRM. It's not just what I'm working on. If I just focus on what I'm working on, I'll run out of places to go.
sure, no, well, that makes sense.
Yep.
I was saying my career path sort of, I went the way of I'm planning to become the next, right? And in a motion of moving up. And I realized that I really liked developing campaigns like HTML, and I didn't want to. That's where I wanted to be. I was happy. There was enough in the coding, there were enough things changing. There's always something happening, responsive, dark mode, script. There's always something going on. So it's not as if it's stale. It's not stale. And making something work, all the designs, I mean, similar, but you've got to make it work and deal with different content. So for me, I am, I've been doing exactly the same thing, but it's email marketing and it's from launch, migration, data management, it's always, it encompasses the whole thing, but it's for smaller companies. While I may do some work for larger companies, then it becomes more of a specialty niche where, perhaps I'm doing support, right? Obviously, I've got to be doing something. I can't be doing everything for a large company. So it's been, I'd say for anybody that's interested in email marketing, the good parts are that you can continue to work in email marketing, but you can work business, you can work nonprofit, you can work direct to consumer. And then when you go into direct to consumer, you could be working a large store, small store. You could, I mean, there's quite a lot. You could be working food, you could be working wine, you could be working, clothing, shoes. So many different things.
Now there's finally opportunities to teach too.
Yes.
You can't get a master's in email marketing, but they do want you to come and still teach about it to students. So I thought, but there's opportunity to continue your education and even start giving back now. So I'm curious to see by the time that my two are through college, what is in kind of the marketing technology building within each of their universities. So
I mean, do I think that email marketing is going to die? Not anytime soon. But eventually, just like mail died, like send it direct mail. Really? It's not dead. People do still send direct mail. There is such a thing as a catalog.
So we actually just had to switch our garbage to direct mail yesterday because we haven't been getting our online billing, and they just decided to stop picking up our garbage instead of letting us know that we weren't getting our bill. So now we've asked for paper bills in addition to the digital one, because we at least know then we have a physical one in our hands. So things are starting to even go back to getting a physical copy, because systems aren't always reliable, especially with more aggressive like anti-spam and like engagement pieces. So if you're not engaging with the email, then it moves it over into spam. And I've had bills end up in that spam folder now because I don't engage with that company and all the other millions of emails they send me before it's the end of the month where I need to pay.
Yes, I have the Yahoo account and the Gmail account.
Yep.
And the crap goes to the Yahoo account and the important stuff goes to the Gmail account.
Yep.
But never the twain shall meet.
Yep. And then the garbage company charges $35 to come today to get our garbage once we figured out what was going on. And they were like, oh, well, we'll come and get your garbage, but now it's an additional fee, even though like we didn't get you your bill.
For many people across the United States, not everybody pays for garbage. It's in my taxes, so I don't have to worry.
Yep.
But you know,
I thought it was too until yesterday when they didn't come. And my husband was like, nope, that one we just do through automatic billing. But apparently it stopped working and they didn't let us know.
these things do happen.
Yep.
Things do happen.
We do have fabulous rec centers here though, with like pools and climbing walls and things that are included in our taxes instead. So
Yes.
I'll pay for my garbage.
Yes. So you said you were a mom. I think at one point you were a single mom. So
Yep.
how did you manage that career? It must have driven you crazy at some point. And you know, here it is, you're managing a career and you're actually becoming a speaker. I mean, how you know, you're working on a bunch of different channels. How do you balance your life?
I mean, it was really hard, especially back being at a startup, which is, as I had said, I ended up leaving because of burnout, because I wanted to see my kids. When you work 60 and 70 hours a week, you're dropping them off in the morning when they're still half asleep and you're picking them up after bedtime. And so that was really a lot of it.
Mommy.
Yep. So yeah, I mean, a lot of it was at that point, you know, I really wanted to make something of myself. I was young. Unfortunately, I had endometriosis, and so I had to have my children younger than most women do. And so I really had to not only prove myself as an employee places, but even as a single mom, because when you're 21 having kids, people are like, are you sure you're cut out for that? And I mean, back when I was 21, that's when the teen mom shows or whatever were on TV. And so, you know, that's what people think of as a single mom. And I was hell-bent on that not happening. And so that was
fresh out of college.
Yeah. But I mean, that was my time. I mean, 2 years later, I had to have surgery to have a full hysterectomy and no more kids after that. So I had my two and that was it. I mean, and life happens. And so that was, I knew that was my only chance. And so that was why I had to prioritize. It was shortly after my surgery where I realized that I was like, no, I want to be home. I found some really great clients. Sears was one of them back when they were actually, you know, a big clothing company and sold appliances and everything else. And Craftsman was like their exclusive. And so I had them out of Florida. And then I had a few local Indianapolis companies that I had met during Exact Target events and whatnot. Funny enough, like the Exact Target caterer was the biggest caterer in Indiana and Indianapolis. They had a bunch of other locations. And so when I left, they were one of my very first clients. And then they actually gave us a discount on our wedding because I left before my husband and I got married. And so, yeah, not only did I make this relationship, but then we also saved on our wedding dinner. So everybody got steak.
Well, you know, you're working on a bunch of different channels in your head here. You know, your mom, your career, you're a solopreneur, an entrepreneur. You're doing all of these things. It's you know, it's sort of like some of the most difficult, literally like the most stressful things in the world all at once.
So my mom, I'm actually fortunate enough. My mom was the very first saleswoman at her company. Before her, it was only men allowed, and they had to wear their suits into the restaurants and whatnot. And so I had her basically proving herself. She's barely 5 foot, and she was going into these kitchens full of men to sell them wares. And sometimes they would give her flack and she would stand up to them. And she had to prove herself. And she went from being the only saleswoman there to sitting at the president's table and being one of the top salespeople. And so she's always been an inspiration because she didn't take any crap and she did what it took to prove herself. And so I got to watch her A lot of times she even had us help her. She wasn't afraid to ask for help. So back then we still had, paper versions of sales orders and things. And she would have us help sort on the weekends, and she would pay us allowance to sort all these files for her and get them into all the different filing cabinets and stuff that she needed. Because that's how it happened. She was a single mom too for a while when we were young. And so I was taught to, ask for help when needed. And I did the same. And just like my grandma helped support her, she helped support me when my kids were little. And that's why I always tell people, like, don't be afraid to ask for help. Like, you may feel vulnerable at work, but there's still other people that do something either similar than you at work or outside of work if you need help, so that you can be successful at work. Like,
yeah, I would imagine that you were scared shitless. How do you work from like fear? Like literally, it's almost flight or fight. Like, well, what am I doing? And then you've got to make decisions.
yep. And even at that point, I was still so new out of college that, I was living almost paycheck to paycheck. And so it was like, I got to get food on the table. I got to keep the power on. I got to pay the rent, and I got to pay for diapers and whatnot. And that's, you do what you have to as a mom or as a parent, really. There's single dads I know that are just as amazing and have stepped up and done just the same.
But work-wise, you're literally making decisions. You're doing your contract, and you're selling, you're nurturing, you're doing the work.
And I was terrible at billing.
You're terrible at what?
At billing. I would always forget to send people the invoices. I'd have some clients, they'd be like, I haven't gotten an invoice in like 2 months, Corrina. I'd be like, oh, I need to pay my bills. I just liked what I was doing, and I loved a lot of my clients. And so a lot of times,
that's very helpful.
Yep.
That's very helpful. And I'd say that that was sort of, that's very similar to me in email marketing. I really enjoyed doing the work. So even though there were times where I was like, 4 o'clock in the morning, I'm working on a project because the HTML doesn't work, and I'm doing it for the 5th time, I would say to myself, you can't pay me enough for this job. But I never said, I'm quitting in the morning.
Yep.
The truth is, back then, they didn't pay me enough.
Nope.
And that was very difficult, always for me. That was that only came about a few years ago. And
yeah, I agree. I actually, when I first went back to brand side, I totally undervalued what I thought I was worth salary wise. And so it was, once I was there for about a year, and I was like, I should be making way more than this. And so I kind of reached out and started putting feelers out. And then I ended up, when I left that job, almost doubling my salary because of my experience. And I was like, yeah, okay, this is what I should be doing. Now I could enjoy this again. But yeah, it's
exactly. Now, the thing is, it's difficult when you're not appreciated. And even if they say, oh, what would we do without you? I know what you would do without me. So would you like to pay me with me, or would you like to pay me without me?
Yep.
It's the getting paid appropriately. I don't want to get into a woman thing, because it's not only a woman thing, it's an email marketing thing. Whereas,
and I fortunately live in Colorado, where now it's required to publish the salary as part of the job description. So it's really nice to have an equal playing field. But we also have a gay governor who is awesome. So he advocates for everyone. Which is really nice.
He's marginalized, he gets it. And but the thing is, it's of my opinion that we're all marginalized when we get down to, we can all find a little niche that we're in.
Yep.
But pay people for what they can do. And if unfortunately, if you need a job and they're not willing to pay you well, but you need the job, sometimes you need to do it. And there's nothing, there's nothing you could do except say, I'll do it for 6 months, and in the meantime, get my resume in order, get my LinkedIn in order, start networking, and realize that I'm going to be moving up. And up doesn't necessarily mean you have to become a supervisor, manager, director, administrator, whatever. Moving up means, you get paid well for what you do. You get experience, and you get paid for that.
Yep. Yeah, I was really fortunate. My last job, even, I was paid well. That was part of why I left. And my huge closet full of shoes. I bought like 80 pairs of shoes at my previous job, working in a company that sells for 14 different shoe brands. But yeah, when the Olympics reached out, I especially since, I had one that trained in a sport that you really only follow if you follow the Olympics. It was like, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. And then we had the once in a lifetime campaign for our once in a lifetime opportunity with the Super Bowl and the Olympics. So I was like, see, it's once in a lifetime. I got to go do this.
No, absolutely. I mean, really,
it's amazing to like have my work on TV versus like seeing a commercial for like the rewards program and be like, yeah, I do the stuff behind that. But like having a QR code that's on TV, then be like, no, I even like created the URL and made that QR code and sent it to the broadcast team. And now it's tied to all of my stuff. Like I've been officially on TV now, but not myself.
Do your kids think you're cool?
No,
Yeah,
they're 17 and 18 though. So, I mean,
they usually don't. Even if you're Mel Gibson, they don't think you're cool.
No.
So
they roll their eyes whenever I ask them about email things.
Yeah, well, I would say that most of my friends to this day, I've been doing this since 2000. They have no idea what I do.
My favorite was my mom thought that I hand wrote the receipts that people got as an email for famous footwear purchases.
Sure.
It was like, no, Mom, I do scripting that brings data in and that's like a template, but let me just show you. And then she was like, yeah, I don't get this, but good, honey.
That's what I do. I'm like, come on in. I open up an HTML editor. I'm like, see the code? Okay, now I'm going to show you what it looks like. Okay. Oh, you do that? Yes, that's what I do.
Yep.
You're a programmer? Oh, yeah, I'm a developer. I would consider myself a programmer, but yeah, that's what I do. Oh.
Yeah, my kids have learned HTML and CSS in school and they still don't appreciate what I do.
Well, you really, what's really important, with anything that you do, with an ESP, with any application, if you can't apply it to something that you're doing, you need to do, or you want to do, it's meaningless. So, if somebody says, oh, Canvas is a really good photo editor, you're like, oh yeah, maybe I'll use Canvas. I don't know. If you don't do photo editing, what do you need a product for? And
Yep.
You're not going to get it until sometimes somebody says, you see this image, I need you to crop this, do that, do the other thing. You're like, oh, I don't have Photoshop, so maybe I'll let me see what that, let me see that app and see if, oh, this is really cool. The end. You need an application. And that's, there are some skills in life that translate, through jobs, and being able to figure out what you need to complete a job, to figure out which apps that you need and to learn the apps, that may be transferable from one type of a situation to another, but it doesn't mean that everybody can do that. Because I've seen a lot of marketers that are in marketing that don't know how to use applications. And I don't know why the heck you're in marketing if you can't use an application. Out. The word digital is part of this marketing. If you can't do it, you get out. If you're not, I'm not so great in applications. That's not it. That's not it. I would think that, how did you get through the interview? Who do you know? And I also
That's actually what I've been spending a lot of my consulting time on outside of my full-time job. It's been training people on how to use Marketing Cloud more proficiently, or even just newer teams to it, more so than doing things myself. And I've actually found that's just as fulfilling as building the things myself as watching these other teams that I maybe work with them for about 6 months at a time for like 1 or 2 hours a week to meet with them and mentor after my work hours. And then like 6 months later, they're like, I think we're ready to take this on. Back when I was young and doing consulting, I would have been heartbroken. I'd be like, well, that's the client. But now I'm like, no, I empowered these people to be able to do this themselves. They're now employable in the email marketing ecosystem and can go out and continue to grow now.
What is very true for a lot of ESPs is that it's not just software, because there's strategy involved, and what you can do in one, you have to do differently in the other. And if you're saying, oh, I just want to do a drip, then maybe you just want to go to Active Campaign, which just drips really well. But if you're trying to do a more enterprise concept, then you are going to Salesforce Marketing Cloud. And those tools are deep tools.
Yep.
Deep. And what you could do perhaps in Klaviyo is wildly different in Salesforce Marketing.
Yep.
And if you don't get some, I'll use the word training, where you learn the application. You need to learn what the pieces do. Because you may be thinking, oh, it's certain, if somebody says, can it do this? Yeah, I can do this. But we don't have that module.
Yep.
So, I mean, no, it can't. How much does it cost? Oh, we can't afford that. So, you have to know your tools. And someone like you at Salesforce Marketing.
Yep. Yeah, I take a lot of what I've learned just over the years working in the actual tool versus being someone on like the ESP side that does trainings all the time. Because people usually get those trainings and then it's a few months later, we're like, okay, now I need to actually know how to use this within my circumstances. And that's where I come in and basically say, okay, what do you want me to teach you? What do you want to learn how to do? Because I'm here, and if I don't know how to do it, he does because he wrote it. So
Right.
It's not so much the case now, it's a year later, but it used to be the case for a long time. But yeah, that's a lot of what, I just kind of come in and help problem solve and empower people to either go on Trailhead, or we do little recorded sessions where I make them do it and walk them through it the same way that I do my own staff on my team. I love screen sharing and collaboration stuff, especially now that they have like the whiteboards where I can actually draw and annotate on their screen and be like, I want you to go over to right here on the screen.
I have found that I do a lot of support. So the client will say, how do I do this? And I used to invite them to a Zoom meeting. And then I was like, you know what, I'm just going to start recording these things.
Yep.
So I'll record it. I'll host it. It's private. It's only for them. They get to watch it 50 times. And the response is always like, oh, thank you so much. That was really helpful.
Yep.
And, I like to do those types of things. Support is one of mine. I'm a problem solver. So if you ask me, oh, how can we do this? I'm more than likely to take complete control of it and figure it out. And then I'm willing to show someone else. But the first time, my hands are all over it and get the heck out of my way. Because I don't know until I know. I'll ask questions.
Yep.
But I don't know until I know. So
that's one of the things that I've really worked on learning how to do now is I'll still have them send me over the piece and I'll usually find what's wrong. And then I'll get on a call with them and kind of walk them through, but still have them fix whatever it is versus doing it myself. Yep. And that has been especially the case here at NBC, is I have 2 or 3 really smart email specialists that I think can definitely go on to be more of an email developer or even more of a marketing cloud side, like email marketing automation type developer. But unless they have someone like me to teach them, it's not going to happen. So that's a lot of what I've been doing now, because that's even what I've noticed doing like the certification days for Salesforce, where I help with some of the boot camps, is there's still kind of that learning curve of you go through and you do the certifications, but there's not necessarily that person to teach you to get to the next step.
I find a lot of the certs, a lot of the certifications they're not application savvy. So you're learning the words and perhaps where the tools are, but you really need to be able to connect the dots.
Yep.
To take those tools and to actually play them out and figure out what they're for. And that's the difference between an email marketer.
Yep.
And somebody who's just getting certification.
And I just took one of my email specialists actually and taught her how to take a query that I helped her put together and just change out a few pieces now so that she can automate the emails that she wants to send to specific customers or subscribers, I guess, for say, like we send an email today about the Indy 500 and she wants to remind the people that engaged 2 hours before the actual event to tune in. So now she knows how to actually create a automation so that she doesn't have to work on Sundays to schedule this email and create the list. She can actually just use this query and then set up this automation that runs, and now she gets her Sundays back.
Yep.
And that's the difference between an email specialist and an email marketer.
Yes. What I say often is a lot of times there's no strategy in what they're doing and they don't know what's available in the toolkit, in the tool set. To actually make it happen. So they'll say, well, I want this to go out and then I want a reminder and then I just want to send it to people that have registered. So I'll need you to do the download of the people that registered, and I'm gonna need to figure out what day. No, automate the whole damn thing. Well, how do I do that? Well, if you've got the right tool set, you can do it. Needless to say, you can manually do it. I'm not saying you can't. And with the smaller tools, you have to do that. But when you get to the marketing cloud, there are a lot of,
and there's a huge jump between the small to medium business tools and the enterprise level tools. And unless you have somebody to tell you how to bridge that gap, like you don't know what you don't know. You assume that there's the same things that you did in your other ESP. And so, yeah, that's one of my favorite things to do, is just see that aha moment on people's faces when they're like, I can do that? I'm like, yeah, you can do that. Let me show you this other cool stuff we can do too.
Yeah, that, if you use the term query, they'll be like, oh,
Yep.
And the point is that they'll segment, but the segment tools in many of the ESP packages are fairly simple, and you can't do complex segment. And everyday people don't think along the lines of these complex segments where it's part of this, part of that, but then, they don't think that way. And they'll just basically think manually step by step, and they'll say, well, I don't have time to do that. And they won't do it.
Yep.
They won't do it. Or they'll plan all the pieces and they'll take them out of the marketing cloud. And you're like, no. Have them, why'd you get the marketing cloud if you're going to pull everything out into another package? Aren't you working against yourself? Why'd you do that? Why'd you get your enterprise software? Are they talking? No, they're not. Well, why'd you do that? Don't do that. Please don't do that. Because you could do everything in the marketing cloud if they're talking to each other.
Yep.
You got it.
Yeah, I mean, that's for most tools too. That's one of the things, is you're only as good as kind of your implementation and how you set yourself up for success.
Right.
So,
but it's also only as, it's only as good as the team. It's only as good as the strategy. And sometimes you really do need to think it through and to determine if your tool can do it. And then at some point in time, if you're in a tool that consistently cannot do it, and you're always third-party tools that are interlocking, integrating or not integrating, you've got to think it's time to step up, because we're at the point where we want to do more complex email marketing, and the tool, the email service provider is not accomplishing that and won't accomplish that. You can't make MailChimp do something that Salesforce Marketing Cloud can do on the fly. You can do it if you hire a programmer and they start playing around with the API, but essentially they're programming Salesforce Marketing Cloud. They're creating their own cloud, and outside of it, pushing it back and forth. So you're doing exactly the same thing. Now you've got the tools already in an enterprise piece of software. You don't need to duplicate them or replicate them in a small business piece of software. It's sometimes people just don't have the money. Companies don't have the money, but they want to do the complex work. It's difficult, to say the least. So we're winding down to the end of the hour. I was wondering how people would be able to connect with you in the case where they just want to perhaps have you speak, or maybe actually have you train, or just want to have a conversation.
So I'm on LinkedIn. You can find me under my name, Corrina Cohen, or I'm also on Twitter, although I haven't been super active lately. I have one child graduating and one about to be a senior. So I've got back-to-back finding colleges and things. So, and it's also right now my first one going to college. So I've been kind of giving myself time to cope, but I will be back on Twitter eventually as CWessel25. My actual display name is still Corrina Cohen, but if you see a Corrina Cohen with a handle with the last name Wessel, that is still me.
I'll post everything below at YouTube, but just
I'm on Instagram, but it's really me hiking in the Rocky Mountains and pictures of my dogs. So if you don't want email content, you can find me on there. But
people do have other interests.
We foster dogs in our the little free time we have, we foster dogs, and then both of ours are foster fails, but that's one of our pieces of volunteer work besides working with actual people and whatnot.
What kind of dogs have failed? What are your two dogs?
So they're both mixes. So one is an Afghan Hound Boxer Husky. So he looks like a
my God.
long-haired boxer.
I'm visioning it. And Afghan, long hair, hound,
Yep. Yep.
husky, long hair.
Yep.
That must be the wildest looking dog I've ever seen.
He's a long-haired boxer, basically. People love
Oh,
him.
I
You
forgot
can
the
see him.
boxer part. A
Yep.
long-haired boxer.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, my son's best friend calls him Majestic Dog when he comes over.
I could see that. I'm gonna have to. Is that a picture that you have on Instagram?
Yep.
Oh,
yes.
I'm going.
And then the other one is a Pomeranian Black Lab German Shepherd mix. So she looks like a tiny black lab with an attitude of a Pomeranian.
How the heck did Miss?
I have no idea. We thought we were adopting a black lab, and then our neighbors also adopted a black lab. And when ours was 8 months old, their 3-month-old black lab was twice her size already. And we went, maybe we need to get DNA tests, because I don't think this is a lab.
A miniature black lab with lots of hair.
And she gets the little mane like Pomeranians do when they get mad. And she has the attitude of a Pomeranian.
Okay.
She is a princess.
Okay.
She's not a big goober like a lab. She's
The whole world revolves around her.
yes.
You know, she's like, oh, what's going on over there? Oh, what's
Yep.
going on over there? Wait, I have something to say.
Yep. And she hates to go outside. She's the only dog I've ever met that doesn't want to go outside.
Oh, she doesn't want to go outside.
Nope. She would rather lay in bed and snuggle you all day.
Oh, she's that kind of princess. So
Yep.
she's the queen of the house.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Mine is
If you've seen the Oliver and Company movie with the poodle that has like its own room with the fancy bed, that would be her. Yep.
My dog, when I walk her, if she hears a window open, she's like, who's there? What? And she'll drag me
She would be
over.
barking. My other one would want to join the people and make friends, but yeah, she's
No, everyone's her friend.
Yep.
I'm walking down the block and she sees some, like I said, window opens and somebody says, she's like, that's my new best friend. Let's go.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And then if anybody says, oh, she's so cute, she's the mayor.
Yep.
Yes, she's in charge of everyone, everything. She's got something to say about everybody.
Yep.
Yes, to meet them, greet them, hold the baby. That's my dog.
That's our husky one. He even had his husky in him. He likes to talk back. So, yep. Like if he decided he was ready to go outside right now during our call, and I told him no and tried to whisper, you would hear him bark back at me and be like, "Oh no, mom."
No, I gotta go now.
Yep.
Well, it really is a pleasure to have talked with you.
Yes, and if this comes out in time for anybody that will be in Chicago for Salesforce Connections, I will be there presenting with my team.
Oh,
And
cool.
so I wanted to throw that out there too, because I am also, if you've seen me at a convention, I can be pretty shy in person, but I promise I want to talk to you.
This destroys the evergreen, but when is, just for everybody, when is that in Chicago? What's the date?
What is it? June. Sorry, I gotta look over here at my calendar real quick because I have only been paying attention to when college things are happening right now. I believe it's the 8th and 9th.
Okay, in June, June in Chicago.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, 2 weeks from Wednesday.
And what's the event called?
Salesforce Connections.
Cool.
So anybody that's a Salesforce Marketing Cloud user or a Datarama user or Pardot user that tunes in. And then even some of the other like vendors and things, if you're watching, like
Cool. Okay.
come and say hi, please. And then come and get Olympic stickers and other fun freebie stuff.
Oh, you got swag. You got swag.
Yep.
Maybe I'll come.
It's not NBC unless we come with swag. So.
There you go. Well, as I say at the end of every single show, happy email marketing, you all.
Thank you so much.